Good evening and welcome. My name is Marissa Reyes. I'm the Chief Learning and Engagement Officer for Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art. Thank you for joining us this evening as we explore the civic duty of artists through a conversation with acclaimed musician Yo-Yo Ma and artist Carrie Mae Weems. But first, I'd like to begin this program with our Indigenous Peoples Acknowledgement, recognizing the museum's role as settlers and guests in the Northwest Arkansas region. We acknowledge the Caddo, Quapaw, and Osage, as well as the many indigenous caretakers of this land and water. We appreciate the enduring influence of this vibrant, diverse, and contemporary cultures of indigenous peoples. We are conscious of the role in colonization that museums have played. As cultural institutions, we have a responsibility to engage in the dismantling of historical and systemic invisibility of indigenous peoples, past, present, and future. We choose to intentionally hold ourselves accountable to appropriate conversation, representation, connection, and education to facilitate a space of measurable change. Tonight's program is inspired by and builds on the ideas and themes in the exhibition titled We the People, the Radical Notion of Democracy. In a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, a rare original print of the US Constitution, only one of 11 known in the world, is displayed alongside original prints of the Declaration of Independence, the proposed Bill of Rights, and the Articles of Confederation. Portraits of Native American leaders, including John Matthias's depiction of Seneca leader Red Jacket, hang beside familiar paintings of revolutionary leaders such as Alexander Hamilton by John Trumbull. Constitutional themes of equality, freedom, and justice are explored in 20th century works by Jacob Lawrence and Gordon Parks, among others, while living artists such as Roger Shimomura, Luis Garza, and Shellen Nero address past and present struggles for equality. This exhibition, if you haven't seen it yet, remains open until January 2nd, and we invite you to visit us to witness history and to consider our present moment through the power of art with this unique exhibition. Now, tonight's program is made possible through the generous support of our sponsors and friends of Crystal Bridges. They're identified on the screen before you. I'd like to extend our gratitude, so please join me in thanking our exhibition and program sponsors. And thank you to our friends at Arkansas PBS for their partnership in making tonight's program accessible to those tuning in from home and remotely via live stream. We are grateful to have your support on this and other efforts supporting the exhibition and our mission. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce our guests for this evening. Considered one of the most influential contemporary American artists, Carrie Mae Weems has investigated family relationships, cultural identity, sexism, class, political systems, and the consequences of power. Determined as ever to enter the picture both literally and metaphorically, Weems has sustained an ongoing dialogue within contemporary art for over 30 years. During this time, Carrie Mae Weems has developed a complex body of work employing photographs, text, fabric, audio, digital images, installation, and video. Musician Yo-Yo Ma's multifaceted career is a testament to his enduring belief in culture's power to generate trust and understanding. Whether performing new or familiar works from the cello repertoire, collaborating with communities and institutions to explore culture's role in society, or engaging unexpected musical forms, Yo-Yo Ma strives to foster connections that stimulate the imagination and reinforce our humanity. At heart, he is an advocate for a more human-centered world. As Yo-Yo Ma and Carrie Mae Weems prepare to begin the program, we're joined tonight by the museum's founder and board chair emeritus, Alice Walton. And I invite Alice now to help us welcome Yo-Yo Ma and Carrie Mae Weems to the stage. Alice?
Thank you, Marissa. No, it's not St. Patrick's Day. I just like green. It's an honor to be here with you tonight, and a special honor for me to get to introduce to you two friends that are here tonight to talk about the Constitution, the document that established our national government, fundamental laws, and guaranteed basic rights for us all. Yo-Yo and Carrie Mae are among our most influential American artists, willing to tackle the complex subjects of our time, one through music and the other through performance and the visual arts. They were born within 2 years of one another, and both became social advocates, using their art to broaden perspectives. I'm so glad they are here with us tonight. I feel a deep connection to both of them. We have a fantastic series of works by Carrie Mae in our collection, and I've enjoyed the opportunity to get to know her and to study them and come to know her better through them. And Yo-Yo and I have something in common. I like to say my claim to fame is I have the same birthday. A few years before Yo-Yo's, I must admit. We've occasionally had the opportunity to celebrate our birthdays together. And though we're a month late this year, please joining me in helping celebrate Yo-Yo Ma and Carrie Mae Weems.
Oh my goodness. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Thank you all for coming and for being with us tonight. I'm just going to share just a little bit of information before we begin to provide a little bit of context. A couple of months ago, this summer, I received this phone call, Friday afternoon. It was just about cocktail time. And this voice said, hello? Is this Carrie Mae Weems? And I said, yeah. Who's this? And he said, Yo-Yo Ma. When Yo-Yo Ma calls, you take notice. You take notice. And we spent a really wonderful beginning of a series of conversations about what we were thinking about, what we were working on as artists, what we were committed to, the difficulty of the work sometimes that we do. We're always wondering whether or not our partners are going to have our bags packed at the door, because we're always on the road. And but we talked a lot about truth. The meaning of truth, our truth, social truth, political truth, how to deal with these ideas and how we both deal with them in some way in our work. Ideas around the Constitution, that beautiful, beautiful document that we all hold so dear. And we talked about other things. It was just a really lovely conversation. And I think I talked to him also about something that we're going to talk to you about tonight as well. And then we had this hour-long conversation or so, and a few weeks later, Yo-Yo called again. We talked a little bit more. And we talked again about these ideas about truth and what we were working on and what he's doing, what he's been trying to do with his work and his activisms, and what I'm doing. And I shared with him that day, I think, a story about my grandfather, Frank Weems, who was a union organizer who joined the Southern Tenants Farmers Union and became a car celeb, actually. His name is Frank Weems, and was working very closely with the union. And one afternoon was out organizing with one of his colleagues, Jim Reese. They were both beaten. And when Jim woke up, my grandfather was gone. My grandfather was married to my grandmother, Vera. He had 8 children. And we assumed, and everyone assumed, Jim assumed, and the union assumed, that he was dead. A year later, he was discovered, he was found in Chicago in his lawyer's office, preparing to sue the state of Arkansas for his mistreatment. Once he was found, there was very little story about my grandfather. I never saw my grandfather. The first time I saw a photograph of my grandfather was just a couple of years ago. And over the last year, I've actually been working on a piece about Frank Weems and about whether or not it might be possible to continue his suit against the state of Arkansas for his mistreatment. And that is what we're going to share with you tonight, the video and the text and the strip that I've written and Yo-Yo is going to perform. So that is the context that we're working in tonight. I hope that gives you a sense of where we are, the landscape that we're in, and we will begin. This is our first time doing this live, maybe our last. So bear with us. Mr. Ma, yes. A woman stands in the thaw of winter, the beginning of spring, reflecting, considering, imagining, contemplating the past, and imagining the future. With one step, she could be in the future in an instant, or in the past, in the moment, the now. But to get to now, to this moment, she needs to look back over the landscape of memory.
I wrote the song about Frank Weems in Memphis.
Could you give us a little bit? They thought he was killed, is that right?
I wasn't present when it all happened. I can give you what Frank Weems told me. I was the first to see Frank Weems after this was over of the Union. I met him in Chicago at the, can't even call the name of that.
Lost in memory, the woman faces history, a history with the story that's been told 1,000 times before. If you look on the horizon, here and there, first seen, now hidden are little sightings of hope, of dreams, and of memories. And if you look closely through the corridors of time, even within the horror, one could see the fluttering wings of doves, wings like time batting out beats of hope. Hope was the thing missed, the thing hoped for. You could almost taste it, but it was just out of reach, just above your head. My grandmother, Vera Weems. A man and his wife stand in the winter of his decision. He knows that the only path is forward. He doesn't know everything that's to come, but he knows that there will be steep consequences for his actions. And he knows this before even making the smallest move. He can see it in his mind's eye. And he knows that there will be unimaginable hardship, but it can't be helped. Indeed, that is the price of the ticket. But worse is to do nothing. And so what are his options? He knows that a man must stand for something, lest he fall for anything. And so my grandfather, Frank Weems, decides to join the Union. Imagine that all you really want is a fair shake, the ability to live in dignity, to raise your family, to watch them grow, to love your wife, maybe to dance in the summer sun. And for daring to want this, you are charged with the unimaginable. You are charged with disturbing the peace. You are charged with disrupting, agitating. And therefore you are terrorized, brutalized, beaten, and left for dead on the side of a road. This is what happened to my grandfather, Frank Weems. And so, in 1936, in eastern Arkansas, near Earl, in the boot hill of the South, in that rich black earth of plenty, of single crops, black and white sharecroppers, tired of being tired of making 75 cents a day, formed the Southern Tenants Farmers Union. And for their efforts, they too were brutalized, terrorized, and beaten. Some were murdered. But then hundreds of families are forced to leave the farms and the plantations that they call home. Of course, my grandfather, my grandmother, and all of their children, along with many of their friends, were part of that. My grandfather was an organizer, and he knew that his actions would have serious consequences both for himself and for my family. The party of Lincoln, the party of the right. The party of the right seemed to fail you and eventually turned you over to the party of the left that became the party of right as we know it. And then there was the war, the Civil War, that war to end all wars with all those lives lost. The treaty for slaves, but not necessarily you. Then there was Jenny, the cotton Jenny, and spinning Jenny's cotton into gold. The industrial rise changes cotton culture forever. And now you are no longer needed, you are no longer wanted, and you have been replaced by machines that left you idle. And your ties to the land, your ties to the land are finally broken in profound, profound way. We know that the road is not straight. We know that it twists and turns, it zigzags, sometimes to things that actually dissipate. But it does carry you, this road, past all of the historical circumstances. It passes all of the lies, and it passes all of the shattered dreams. It passes all the broken promises. It passes all the nightmares, and it has the ability to lead you straight into that heart of darkness. And so Frank had been beaten, thought dead. But you wake up alive, and you find yourself deep in the woods surrounded by the cold. You wake up and you find yourself alive, and you know that there is never, ever, ever any possibility that you could ever go back. There are no other options. And so he's forced. He's forced to leave his home and everything that he's ever known. He's forced to leave his wife, his children. He's forced to leave Vera, 8 children, his friends. And he has to decide something that he's never had to decide before. But a decision that he's going to carry with him for the rest of his life, because Frank decides to run. There really are no other options for Frank. His life has been threatened. The life of his family, the life of his children, the life of his friends. The only option really left for him is to leave. The only option is to survive. The only option is to survive. The only option is to survive. And so he crawls and he walks and he runs and he hides. He crawls and he walks and he runs and he hides, making his way slowly but surely, following his own North Star, and arriving eventually in Chicago.
Song I wrote it before. I wrote it in Memphis. It was a few days after the word got out that Frank Weems had got killed or something. somebody to tell me and tell me right. I want somebody to tell me where Frank Weems tonight.
John Hancock, the writer, singer, guitarist, writes about Frank. Soon dead, your life takes on new meaning. Your name becomes a constant refrain. It's used by the Union, by the Socialists, the Communists, the Klan, and the press. The Amsterdam News, all of the Negro papers, even Time magazine asked this question: where is Frank Weems? Where is Frank Weems? Where is Frank Weems? Even President Roosevelt asked the question: where is Frank Weems? Vera, your wife, and your children are photographed by some of the great photographers of the FSA, Lang and Vachon. But it appears that you were worth more dead than alive. We learn that you had made your way to Chicago, and we see you in your lawyer's office preparing a suit against the state of Arkansas for your mistreatment. But once you're found, there's no more mention of you. There are no more articles about you. There's nothing in the press. There are no more stories. Your suit falls away. You disappear from your family, and your family never sees you again. But the family continues to search for you, and they search for you for a very, very, very long time.
Dear Frank, I found that your father was named George Weems and your mother was Betty Shelton, both born in Ohio. Did you have a brother or a sister? Who were your aunts, uncles, cousins? Who were your grandparents on both sides? One source says you were born in Davidson County, Tennessee. The other indicates Ohio. Before you met and married my grandmother Vera Phillips, a source says you were married before at age 23 in approximately 1904. Who was she, Frank? Did you have kids with her? Where did you live when you met and married? Frank, I hope you didn't abandon her. That would have made me oh so sad. From the year of your birth, on March 21st, 1881, until you married Vera in Arkansas on January 4th, 1920, I'm having a difficult time locating you. What was those early years like for you? When did you become a union organizer? Was it before or during the evictions in Arkansas? Were the actions of the union aid in the evictions? I can't imagine what it was like for you and my family. When you were gone, Vera had a hard life. In 1940, she was with a man for a while who helped her with your children. Your son Merle had to basically kidnap his mother, your wife, and another of your grandchildren. Mattie Jean, from a sharecropping situation, is almost a scene from a movie. Apparently, under the cover of darkness, one cold, wintry, rainy night in Mississippi, he went and rescued her and took her to Memphis. When Mattie Jean told me they walked all the way. That's almost 70 miles. An hour and a half by car, 24 hours on foot. The state of mind my grandmother must have been in is unimaginable. My father said leaving her there was not an option. He was about to embark on a journey to Oregon. When they arrived in Memphis, he had a place all ready for her.
My sister Alice has done so much search, so much research on my family, so much research on Frank, trying to find him. In the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, under Part 3, Article 6, it states, every human being has the inherent right to life. This right shall be protected by law, and no one should be arbitrarily deprived of his life or the right to life. Under the United States Charter on Human Rights, and in the name of Frank Weems and the entire Weems family, we charge the state of Arkansas for crimes against humanity. We charge them in the name of Frank Weems for his forced departure from his family and his forced migration, for the loss of his family and all of his children, his grandchildren and his great-grandchildren, for the loss that they suffered and for the emotional trauma endured, for the long days and the sleepless nights, for the violation against his human dignity, for the lack of liberty and freedom, for the unwarranted suffering, for all of the pain, for all of the lies, for all of the dreams and hopes that were dashed and shattered, for his undue treatment, for his possible enslavement, for the brutality directed against him, for the murder of his friends, for the endless search, for the disruption to his life, for all of the unanswered questions, for the worry and the woe, for the beating and the hunting and the dragging, for the time spent on the side of the road, for the walking and the running, for every moment spent in hiding, from the joy that was missed, for the family time, for the birthdays and the holidays and the family gatherings, for the dinners and the dancing, and the births and the deaths, for the celebrations and the graduations, for the days on the beach, for the sunsets lost, for the laughter, for the bid whists and the backslapping, for the sheer fun, and for home, for the evening strolls, for sitting on the porch, for the joy of watching his children grow, for the cuddling and the hugs and the love, for the endless summer days, for the fucking and the fighting and everything that comes along with being in a family, for the nightmares and the terror, the vicious acts of vengeance, the sheets and the torches, the night raids, the rapes and the pillage, the shit and the dirty hands and the filthy mouths and the constant terror, the malicious treatment of women and children. We charge this in the name of the Weems family. We charge the state of Arkansas for his forced migration, his forced departure, for the loss of his family and all of his children, for their loss, for their burden and emotional trauma, for the long days and the sleepless nights and the violation against his human dignity, for the lack of liberty and freedom, for the unwarranted suffering, for all of the pain and all of the lies and all of the shattered dreams, for the murder of his friends, for the endless search, for the disruption, for all of the unanswered questions, for the worry, for the beatings, the hunting and the dragging, for the time spent on the side of the road, for the walking and the running and the hiding, for the nights and the days that were lost, for the joy that was missed, the family time that was missed, the birthdays, the holidays. The dinners, the dancing, the fun, the bid whist, the backslapping, the drinking, the fucking, the fighting.
Daddy said that there is nobody better than you. And don't you ever believe that there is somebody better than you. You can do anything that you want to do. And he instilled that in me, and I always believed it. I feel like I can walk in a room, or felt like I could walk in a room amongst anybody and shine, because that's what he gave me. The confidence, the love, and the strength to do that on an everyday basis. You know, because that's how he just made us feel. He made us feel so special. And so loved. We never felt unloved or unsafe. He was definitely our protector. You know, the first man I ever loved was Steve Weems. And if I could have picked him as a baby to be my father, that's exactly what I would have picked. That's what he meant to me. And still
Carrie Mae,
Oh,
you
my
got
goodness.
all emotional.
This man, isn't he brilliant?
She got all the
Music.
music.
My goodness. So, of course, you know, this is the first time we've done this.
It's
It's
true.
amazing.
We met like at 4 o'clock. She had a plan.
And
She
he
always
changed
has
it.
a plan. No, no. She had 3 plans. We chose one of them.
No, it was really kind of amazing, right? What an experience. I mean, you know, these ideas of sort of trying to get to these notions about, well, what is true, right? How do you locate your own truth in the work, and then how is it bigger, how is it larger than you? Because it's not just, there were thousands of families, millions of families that have had these experiences, right? And sort of finding that emotional core that is both personal and larger than you is always, I think, for me, the focus of the work, right? The thing that allows it to push out, hopefully, into the world. And I was sort of wondering about how then you are responding to what it is that you heard when I sent you, for instance, the video for the first time a month or so ago, and you looked at it. There was a resonance there. What were you thinking about, and how are you responding? And then how do you decide how you're going to respond musically?
I feel like I'm in a class. How would you like to? No, I mean, first of all, I was so moved. You started talking about Frank Weems when we first started talking. And so I felt so privileged to be in some way associated with the process of seeing this develop, right? Because by the time you sent the video to me, it was fully formed, it was poetic, you took the personal, which is deep, 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 but you all got the ending where you've somehow found a way to triumph, right? In spite of everything, you came through, and I will never forget, we just talked about this backstage, that it was your dad who said what to you when you were 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9?
Oh, yes. My father, Speedy Weems, Merle Weems, the son of Frank, who held us very close, because he lost his father so early in his life. So he was determined to keep his children very close to him. And
What did he say to you?
he said to me, and I'm not sure if he said this to all of my brothers and sisters, but I would imagine that he did. But I can remember the first time that he picked me up and he set me on his lap and he looked at me and he said, remember that you always have a right. That you have a right. That you have a right. That you have a right. You know, just this very simple engagement, that you have a right to be. You have a right, you know, to be on this planet. You have a right to voice. You have a right to your ideas. You have a right to your opinion. And having that at a very early age was so important to me. Did you experience the same?
Well, I obviously did the wrong thing with my children because I told them, you don't have the right. You don't have the right. It's like something bad happened. You know, if you had told me this way early on, things would have gone so differently. Now, you all heard her say that, okay? So whatever, you have kids, grandchildren, you know what to do. But I think seriously, I think what you just said is maybe the most important thing that can happen to any individual, is that you are recognized. And the fact that it was your father who did that is extraordinary. We're lucky if somewhere along the line a teacher says, I know who you are. You do? Because I don't know who I am, but if you know what I am and you believe in me, that's fantastic. And that gives a human being dignity.
Yes.
And that's the one thing that we all need. And the Constitution, I think, gives us that chance for dignity. I think that's one of the things that we want to hold on to. It's, yes, it's rights and this and that, but beyond that, behind the legal structures is that
Oh, I think that's
it
absolutely
recognizes.
right. It's absolutely right. I mean, that is the charter, right?
Yeah.
That every person has a right to human life and dignity.
Right.
Right. It's like the basis of all things. And I think that, you know, your ability, whether you do this, however you do this, however you extend that understanding and that extraordinary capacity for compassion to others, that no matter what, you respect the dignity of their humanness, then there's a way through. There's a way, if you can figure that out, right? If you believe that and you trust that, then there's a way through that I think is absolutely essential, and that it holds you. It holds you. I mean, the grace of being graceful and gracious and giving and compassionate towards others is the thing that actually holds you more deeply in your own space, which I think is really kind of remarkable, right? To the extent that I can offer your humanity and really accept it, no matter who you are. I don't have to like you, I don't have to agree with you, I don't have to like the way you dress, whatever, right? Right? But if I could accept that basic thing about who you are and offer it to you regardless of what you do to me, that holds me, it keeps me grounded, I think, in a really fundamental way. And I think also that it allows me to really work. It allows me to work and it allows me to play, I think, in a very important way. I heard once that there is this wonderful saying that within seriousness, there's very little room for play. But within play, there's tremendous room for seriousness.
I love that because I love play.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, I know.
So I
know.
totally believe that. Like
Right.
in comedies, you could, well, the truth can always be told by the fool.
And often
Because you
is.
have no stake. You don't, it's like if you're not a threat to anybody. You can always tell the truth.
Yeah.
But then, that's the fool.
But you've been doing these projects too. I mean, I think that both of us have been deeply engaged. We met for the first time at the Kennedy Center maybe 8 years ago, doing some other work around humanitarian aid, social concerns, activism, how artists are using their tools, their voice, their engagement to foster another level of possibility. And we know that culture and art is the only thing that actually inspires us in the deepest possible way, right? It's through poetry, it's dance, it's music, it's these beautiful expressive forms that allow for that allow us to hope, that allow us to imagine in just sort of extraordinary ways. There's no other form that does that.
I want to tell you what a fool I am, because I wasn't trying to be incredibly impolite by taking out my phone. I was looking for a quote, but I'm technologically incompetent. I found a quote this morning, and this is I'll paraphrase it, but I won't do it well. But you've all heard of Adam Smith, The Wealth of Nations, right? He also wrote a book on the moral sentiments. And in that book, he says that, we all can be very self-involved. We're looking for what's good for us. But we also have the capacity to know another. And that another, once you know that, you then can build something that is beyond yourself. And I think that's exactly what you're talking about. But that comes from Adam Smith. So I kind of, wanted to put that on my phone, which of course I can't find. But but I know it's somewhere on my phone. And I think it's really important because so often these days we're segmented. You know, here we're at Crystal Bridges. It's an incredible place for convening, gathering people to actually explore, you know, the Constitution. And you hear it from so many different ways. But often, usually we think about the Constitution when we are in class. Because you're in school, you learn about the Constitution, you have to know, and you have to spit it back at a teacher, and you know what they want you to say, so you get an A, and you ace it, and then you forget what you learned, right? I mean, that's a bit of my history. I don't want to say too much about my own history, but, you know, but that happens occasionally. I'm sure all of you just go for knowledge's sake, but, you know, I just wanted to pass. So, but to be able to have an examination of the Constitution from like people like us. I'm an immigrant, right? And so as an immigrant, is my history of the United States, does it start from 1962 when I came? Or how do I make US history the history of this nation mine? So how do I become responsible for all of it, going down to back to the Enlightenment, when arts and sciences are part of the examination from natural history? You know, there was less separation. We were all generalists before we became specialists. Today, we're specialists because if you want a job, you better be a specialist. And if you're generalist, so what? It's not useful. But then we don't know how to talk to one another. So I think to have a forum like this, to be able to talk with you, I'm so excited that you can bring me into the world of Frank Weems and make that life my own.
Well, it is yours.
It is. And that's what as an immigrant, you know, even though I've been here for, 60 years, right? I'm still an immigrant. I recognize that because I also know something other, right? And my first 7 years in France mean something very deep to me. But I'm an immigrant. I'm wholly an American citizen, and I believe in what that means, which means that I have to really care about all of it.
Right. But it's sort of like, again, having this sort of double consciousness, isn't it? Because you're talking about, you know, I think that, you know, the beauty in that is that there is a double consciousness to the extent that you really do understand something other, right? That you understand what it was that you were before and where you were before and how that shapes who you are and how you are then shaped by the new context in which you are also in, but also how you shape the context that you are in, right? That there's sort of dynamic play between the two things. And so I think probably one of the things that we should probably do before we leave the stage, I believe that you are going to introduce us to one of the first pieces of music that you actually learned. You're going to share that with us and the audience.
I would love to do that. And thank you for bringing this up because, you know, just as much as I was so taken by what your father said to you early on, and that was a lifelong kind of a gift, I think that keeps on giving. And for me, my first piece of music was the prelude of the first Bach suite, which I learned when I was 4 years old. And I literally learned it. I'm just going to sit in this chair. I literally learned it one measure at a time. Like, no, sit here. No, I want you to be right. I want you to be really close by. In fact, I was gonna play around, you know, your body, but so basically, it's one measure at a time. Second day, the same thing. 2 different notes. Third day, fourth day, same thing. So I learned very early on, some days you learn something new, but pattern recognition. Everything we have in life is pattern recognition. What's regular, what's irregular. In physics, it's symmetry, asymmetry. You know, today you look different, what happened? I've seen you for 20 years, something is, what's wrong, right? You know, that's how we, and so anyway, this is the first piece of music, and I don't know if you're in the mood to try an experiment. Yeah, are you in the mood? Okay, because, all right, cool, you're an adventurous crowd. I'm gonna play it for you once. It's a 3-minute piece, and I want you to notice anything that's kind of anomalous about this piece, that you can tell me about it afterwards, and then I'd like to do it once again, but with your help. And that's the experiment. So here it is, Prelude of the First Suite by Bach. So, how do we learn something from little things that happen? Anybody notice anything anomalous that happens in the middle of this piece? Anything? Does it go on and on and on? Does it ever stop?
Yes.
Do you remember hearing it? What happened? Was that the pandemic? What happens when something completely stops and breaks down? You start again, right? You have to rebuild. How many times have we rebuilt human society for the last 100,000 years? Right? Over and over again. So now, I don't know if you notice, after this, Anybody hear bagpipes? Ever heard bagpipes? The drone of a bagpipe at funerals, at weddings, celebrations. Every society needs that kind of a drone to keep us going, right? Now, Bach wrote this piece for this poor little instrument that can't hold on to a drone, that can only play it once in a while. So I need your help. So, because this note goes all the way to the very end. It resolves. So that is the energy that is needed. That's the energy that something like the Constitution gives us to keep us aligned, moving forward, powered, turbocharged, to keep us going. That's what we need. And Bach didn't know the Constitution, but he didn't need to, because that's a piece of wisdom that every society has that important value, whether it's her dad saying what he said to her, or what you say to your children, or what people have said to you, or what our founding fathers were able to write and put into a document. That's what we need. So would you be willing to all stand up and sing this note? And I will, if you're willing to do it, I will play this piece again, and halfway through you'll hear the silence, and about 20 seconds after, you start to sing this note, and sing it so that you can help all of us bring it to its conclusion. Are you willing to do that? Okay, stand up. So we're going to rehearse this, and I don't know if you can do it, but sing this note. Beautiful. Okay, Crystal Bridges, we're going on tour tomorrow. But we need to resolve it to Great. So the only thing you need to do to be really musical is to make sure that you can always hear the cello, so that, because you could get so carried away with the sound of it, and you'll never know that the piece is over, that I went to bed and you're still singing. Okay? All right? And you're going to join us too, Carrie Mae. Yes? Okay. So, 1.5 minutes standing up if you can stand it, so to speak. So. Everything fine is fine in the world. Lots of regular things. It's like a stream. Flow. Something broke down. Get ready. Going. Building up steam. yourselves a hand. That was great.
And this is the Constitution at Crystal Bridges. How artists respond to the world around them.
The Crystal Bridges Chorus.
Thank you, Alice. Thank you, gang. Thank you all for being here tonight.
Thank
what a
you.
pleasure.
That was great. That was great. That was so good. Thank you.